Alright guys, hello, welcome to MP27 Reviews. You know, I've been doing this for about a year now, so when I started this channel, I had a couple goals, I met them, I am so proud of that, and one thing I've looked forward to since the beginning is doing my own top 10 movies of the year. You know, and there's been a lot of great movies this year, and I'm so happy about that. It's just made me so proud. So here we go, here's my top 10 list. Alright guys, so number 10 on this list, you know, it's not necessarily saying it's a bad thing, so people, it is my opinion, don't sit there and be like, oh, this movie's crap, so how dare you. I love it, so suck it. You know, this movie, I flat out said in one of my earliest videos, no one's gonna care about this movie. And that's one of those things where I eat my words and I'm like, you know, I feel like a dick. So, number 10, World War Z. World War Z was one of those shocking movies where I'm like, wow, this was actually really good. It felt dynamic, it felt like a Bourne movie, which, ironically, directed by a Bourne director, sort of. I don't know how to explain it. So, it's just so good. I love the tension, I love the way the zombies, ran. I just loved everything about it, and it made me happy, and I enjoyed myself the entire time. Oh my god, it's Ben Lord.
Scott, I gotta disagree with you there. One of the problems with this movie is the zombies.
But it's my top 10 list.
It's not saying it's a bad thing, I'm just saying the zombies really kind of bipolar for me, to say the least. Sometimes they're walking slow, trying to eat your brain from you're 20 feet away, walking like your old grandmother with a walker. Other times they're just, Wah! And on you, no matter what.
Oh Jesus, man.
You gotta say the only downfall of that movie, in my opinion, is that the zombies were not
consistent.
They weren't classic zombies, they weren't new zombies.
But
they were
that
all
is
over the
why
place.
You gotta agree. That's why they made number 10 and not some of the other numbers on this list.
Indeed, great story, but the monsters could have got some work.
And I'm very excited for World War Z 2 and 3, so Brad Pitt, don't screw it up, or I will find you. Alright guys, so number 9 just takes me back to a thing I love, you know. In number 9, oh, hey man, this is good. You got some Romulan ale there.
Hey, I call this.
You know, are we gonna make it to the 12th one? What's the 12th one? Okay, so now, just to show, you know, we actually are actors. Seriously, we are actors. Well, I mean, sometimes. It really depends, doesn't it, Chris? Okay, so number 9 is The World's End, as you probably guessed it from that intro. The World's End is one of those movies that is the last chapter of the Cornetto trilogy with Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and tied it all up nice with a nice bow tie ribbon.
If you love any of the, you know, Hot Fuzz, or even Paul, I guess. No, Paul wasn't.
Paul doesn't count. Paul doesn't count. No. Okay, so you know what? This movie had a little bit of everything. It was that partying movie. It was that casual sit back with your friends with a nice brewski and just enjoy the movie. But at the same time, it was an interesting science fiction story.
It did, and that's what I love about these guys. They always somehow implement science fiction in all their movies.
And it had a lot of heart too.
It did,
which you can never deny heart. So, alright guys, I gotta start with a little special something, you know, number 8, now that I can't remember the other ones. I even had to ask my crew to remind me of it.
It's number 8!
You know, it was crazy good. I mean, there was a wildebeest and everything, and I won. So, Thor, The Dark World.
You want to put the hammer down?
I want you to put the hammer down! Okay. And guess what? Who's the villain of this movie? None other than Doctor Who. Oh, crap.
Me, the Doctor.
Oh, crap. wrong franchise. You are actually a dark elf.
Right. And I must say that one of the laziest villains of all time. All I do is show up, grab the power supply, and
have your other people do your other stuff. Thor: The Dark World, guys. You know, fantastic film in my opinion. I actually liked it more than the first one.
Director of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, and I don't like Game of Thrones. Watch now, we get like 700 dislikes because I just said that I don't like Game of Thrones.
You know, the book was better. But anyway, back to Thor.
Thor, you know, it just felt more dynamic. It felt like a medieval epic to me.
Yeah, my favorite part though is the part where the hammer just flying around and just gets confused. It's hilarious.
Oh, that part is great. You know, there's a lot of more comedy, and yet it was darker.
It was much darker.
I love the interaction between Loki and Thor, actually, honestly.
Yeah, and you know, the plot kept me guessing. I mean, I kind of knew that Loki, spoiler alert, was not really dead. So, but still, at the same
The
time,
trailers gave that away.
I dug it. I really dug it.
Yeah, I must say that they did kind of skip out on the sides. They just really said, this is magic science, rather than the first Thor where they actually tried to show you computers. They just said, this is magic, it's happening.
Yep, just magic, you know. Plot, you know, screw plot.
Who needs plot anyways?
Who needs plot in a Marvel movie?
That might explain why it's only number 8.
That might be, but you know, these other movies just kind of edged it out. Number 7 on this list, it's gotta be a particular movie that made me sit there and I was too lazy to review it because I was too busy watching Doctor Who. And that sounds really terrible on my part. Anyways, guys, here we go. Number 7 is The Hunger Games: Catching Fire. Okay, Catching Fire is pretty dang good. Only number 7 on this list because there was obviously better ones in my opinion. But, you know, this movie just took what I always agree with. Take something that is good and then say, well, this is how you can improve on it, and then actually improve on it for the sequels. Don't just sit there and make something totally different for the rest of it. The films, basically, I sat there and said, too much shaky cam in the first one, and that's coming from me, who Cloverfield is his favorite movie. Yeah, stop that. Catching Fire.
Yeah.
Violence of kids.
Mommy!
Been loved since The Hunger Games. Okay, so The Hunger Games was well shot, especially Catching Fire. Catching Fire was so well shot. Beautiful film. Absolutely fantastic. I loved it. The cinematography felt like you were straight out of Hawaii, where it was filmed, actually. So, you know, and the camera actually stayed steady so you could tell whom they were fighting. So, you know, it was fantastic. I loved it. I can't wait for the others because it felt much more epic. So, what are the rest on the list? We'll keep staying tuned. Alright guys, number 6 on this list is one that actually was personal to me. It was an independent film.
Ooh, that sucks. Oh, why?
Okay, sorry for my partners, they don't understand the true value of independent filmmaking. This movie was the definition of it, and it's called Mud, starring Matthew McConaughey. Shall I take my shirt off? Okay, Matthew McConaughey was in this film, and he was one of the best acting roles he's ever been in. Mud was an independent movie that I reviewed pretty early on in my reviewing career, actually, that I sat there and said, you know, this movie just feels natural to me. And it was just great. It flowed great. It was a good, not quite thriller, but drama/thriller, because the whole ending climax was sitting there. You were nail-biting intensity. It was just a great film, and it was shot well. It shows that you can have a ham sandwich and a tuna sandwich for a budget, because that's what it takes to get Matthew McConaughey apparently right now. So, you know, you can take that little of a budget and make just something that feels special, because this movie felt special to me, which is why it's higher up on the list, and I actually have been able to watch it a couple times. So, let's keep going with this list.
Get back to the blockbusters, you hipster.
Star Wars was an independent movie, right?
Oh, fuck you. Number 5 is a movie that, you know, my favorite trilogy of all time has to be The Lord of the Rings, so why wouldn't The Desolation of Smaug? Because I always thought it was Smog, so Smaug. Smaug is on this list. And you know, Desolation of Smaug, it improved on the sequel. It was one of those examples, like I brought up earlier, where they took one and they said, how do we improve on this? And they did. They probably didn't really care about improving, because they knew they were going to make $1 trillion. But, you know, I like to think they do. So, you know, The Hobbit, great film, beautiful cinematography, and you know, they actually managed to make the hobbits actually work in the dwarves, and it's just so great that, you know, how can you not love it? Little people, oh Jesus, oh Jesus. Oh, more action in this film, more drama, more just intensity, especially with the dragon. Benedict Cumberbatch, you know, man crush at this point. Who doesn't have a man crush at Benedict Cumberbatch? No, Benedict Cumberbatch, man crush approved. Oh, you know you do. So, Hobbit, go see it. It's in IMAX right now. I actually liked it more in IMAX than regular theaters. I saw it in both. And you know, IMAX. Not trying to advertise at all. Go, my little dwarves. Ah! Oh Jesus, oh Jesus, oh Jesus! Alright guys, number 4, so we're after the halfway mark, so these are the ones that really hit me personally.
Where's my family?
Now, thank you, Chris, one of my personal favorite films of the year, only because I read the book and the book just struck me with an emotional chord. It really is personal to me. Ender's Game. Ender's Game is just, I love the science fiction of it, I love the world of it. Harrison Ford trying to act like he cares. Where's my family? It was just beautiful. The shots were just dynamic, but at the same time they felt so practical, and I found out a lot of it was practicality. Alright guys, number 4, so we're after the halfway mark, so these are the ones that really hit me personally.
Where's my family?
Now, thank you, Chris, one of my personal favorite films of the year, only because I read the book and the book just struck me with an emotional chord. It really is personal to me. Ender's Game. Ender's Game is just, I love the science fiction of it, I love the world of it. Harrison Ford trying to act like he cares. Where's my family? It was just beautiful. The shots were just dynamic, but at the same time they felt so practical, and I found out a lot of it was practicality. Alright guys, number 3 on this list. When I saw the film, to me, I was in near tears, not because of the film itself, but because just how much I love the world. Guys, Star Trek Into Darkness. First off, Benedict Cumberbatch is in it again. My man, other than Liam Neeson, also known as Neese's Pieces. Liam Neeson, you know? Forever, we're homies. Okay guys, so number 2 on my list. You know, obviously these 2 and 1, they kind of have to be interchangeable a little bit. Pacific Rim. Pacific Rim inspired me even more than what I have to say. Because the way I inspired to be a filmmaker was actually the film Cloverfield, which means giant monster movies, essentially, are my thing. They've always been my thing. The idea of something that much larger than life. It just hit me so much harder, and I know that this is not as comedic as some people would expect, but really, in all reality, it is that personal to me. Pacific Rim just made me feel like everything that I wanted can happen. And as I'm watching it, I'm sitting there watching my dreams, not necessarily the Power Rangers. Sorry guys who love Power Rangers. I can't fathom enough to you how much Pacific Rim meant to me when I watched it in theaters, when Gypsy Danger first went boom and hit his hand and his fist together, and they just sort of created this movie in its own right there, where I'm sitting there as like everything I wanted. When they're sitting there punching each other, as simple as it sounds, to me it meant more than the world, because of the fact that I saw these two just square off. Giant monster and giant robot. And I saw this giant monster just destroy Hong Kong. And just that disaster, that old school, like I'm talking Beast from 20,000 Fathoms old school. Just destruction, and that music with that bam, brr, with that really low bass, it just all connected to me, which is why Pacific Rim had a tear in my eye the entire time. I love you, you're number 2 for one reason, but the only reason you're not number 1 is because of this. Okay guys, there's seriously only one movie that truly deserves this list as the number 1. And you know, it just had so much intensity to me, so many words I can't describe. There's only one way I can describe it, and I don't want to describe it because I don't want to give it away. You know what? Screw it. I'm just going to give it away. Gravity. Gravity is one of the greatest movies, not only I have ever seen, but one of the greatest films of all time. Some people say that Citizen Kane is one of the greatest films of all time. I will never ever disagree with them. Film is entirely subjective, but in all reality, Gravity earns the number 1 place. I don't know how I can probably convey it through skits or whatever to truly convey the amazingness of that film. When I'm sitting there watching it, the sheer intensity, the nail-biting intensity down to the end of it is just amazing. So as I'm watching the nail-biting intensity, I feel for Sandra Bullock and George Clooney. I feel for all these characters. It shows you don't need indie cinema. You don't need blockbuster cinema. You need just cinema in general. This film shows why people make movies. People make movies because of movies like Gravity, where you just feel that sheer suspense, but at the same time, you just feel that sheer desire for filmmaking, where you're like, this is a damn good movie, and I am not ashamed to admit it. No matter what art house filmmakers say, no matter what mainstream filmmakers say, no matter what just blockbuster Michael Bay-ish people say, without any heart or any soul, at the same time they are all saying, gravity, gravity, gravity. It should win Best Picture. It should win Best Cinematography. It should win Best Special Effects. Who makes a movie with special effects that literally no sound effects are happening during the scene, but yet they're more intense than the scenes that had an epic score to it? How many times can you say that a scene with no sound is more intense than a scene with sound and music? It's just so incredible. How can you not deny the effect that Gravity had on you? You know what? We all remember when certain things happened in our lives. I will never forget what Gravity did to me as I was watching it in the theaters, because I will tell you, my face was this the entire time. That is saying something. You know what? 2014, there's going to be a list for you too. And it's just interesting because we're all going to be here for it.
Indeed.
Because we're all friends. This is all my movie reviewing community. This is all I need. Because these guys have my back. Holmes and Watson. Check out Monster Productions 27 with shameless advertising. I love all you guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm going to always be here for you guys. They're going to always be here for you guys. And it's like, please, just enjoy what we have to enjoy. Because year one is over for us, but year two has just begun.
So I'm Chris.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Scott, welcoming you into 2014. This is Scott Acord with MP27 Reviews, signing off.